welcome to this edition of Immersive Outlook. Today we have the pleasure of having Mr. Subramanian Sarma, whole-time director and senior executive vice president of L&T. A graduate in chemical engineering, he is a master's from IIT, having more than 4 decades of experience and 3 decades out of which is in Middle East. He understands the oil and gas value chain completely, and he leads the business development, project management and project execution of projects. He leads the hydrocarbon, power and green development. Welcome to this show, Mr. Sarma, and expect to hear a lot about what L&T is doing for itself and for its client in the Indian market.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for having me here today.
So, to start off with, we have been hearing about climate adaptation and climate resilience a lot over the last 2 decades. But action, it seems, has started just now. Right? Anything that you had to, how do you see the ecosystem developing in our country around the climate adaptation and resilience pieces?
Very good. I think since the Paris Accord, which was signed by most of the countries, there has been regular meetings by most of the countries about the climate change, and that has increased the awareness. And the good thing about it is that the first step in any movement or any change is the awareness. People accepting that there is a problem. I think that stage we have reached. Everyone understands that the global warming is now inevitable unless we do something drastic about reducing the carbon footprint and reducing the CO2 emissions. So I think India is very much part of it. I think India has done quite a bit in after they signed the Paris Accord. I see this as a 3-pronged approach for a country like India, which is an developing economy, where we have to strike the right balance between affordability, security, and clean energy. I mean, all aspects have to be borne in mind. And India has done quite well in moving forward many of the initiatives. It's a 3-pronged approach. What we need is that first, most important is that reduction in the consumption of energy per unit of GDP. I mean, we are a growing economy, so there will always be growth in the energy, but we need to reduce less energy per unit of GDP. That means achieve more with less consumption. And that's happening. And how do we do that is to improve the efficiency of consumptions, use better machines and higher machines. Like we recently did a fertilizer plant which has got a energy efficiency far superior to the existing fertilizer plant, 40% improvement. Similarly, if you see now, people are talking about there was a huge campaign to use LED lamps. LED lamps consumes 40% less energy than a normal lamp, and so on and so forth. So I think these are very good steps which as a country we are driving it to reduce the consumption. Decongestion of traffic as the infrastructure develops. Your travel efficiency becomes better, and fuel consumption gets better. Deurbanization, adding more airports, all this is part of creating that space to reduce the consumption. I think so. So I think everything is happening in that front. That's the first approach. The second approach is how do you find alternative energies, less carbon intense energy. And in that, I think, again, India has made some good progress because they have been trying to move from oil to gas-based economy. Today, the Indian economy is about 6%, gas has a 6% contribution in the energy mix. They want to take it up to 12-15%, because for every calorific value, or for every heating input, the gas emits 40% less carbon CO2 than the oil. So by itself, shifting the fuel from oil to gas itself can reduce the carbon footprint. But other alternative sources, India has added huge amount of solar energy park now, and it's growing, and there is a plan to go up to 500 gigawatt, which is quite substantial. Biofuels is also another thing which is being pushed very hard. I think the blending in biofuel in petrol and diesel up to 20% has been mandated by government. That's happening. I think there's a lot of production. Now, if you can find a good technology to convert staple and agricultural waste into 2G ethanol, that will also contribute a lot to decarbonization. So that's the second approach, alternative. Third is that how do you prepare the country for the future? I mean, no matter what you do, people are talking about 1.5 degrees, 2 degrees temperature rise is now almost given. I mean, you can't get it below that. So which is going to have its collateral damage in terms of rising water levels and climate changes. So how do you prepare the country? I mean, India is in many ways vulnerable because we have 3 sides is the coast. So we have to get ready for that and don't get caught by surprise. How do you build the infrastructure to prevent any natural disasters hitting us badly? And those actions also have to be taken, and also prepare for more afforestation, tree plantation, etc., etc. So 3-pronged approach. One is reduction through better efficiency. 2 is alternative fuels, and 3 is prepare for the future, which is going to happen. I mean, it can't be avoided. I mean, that's the way I see it, and I think India is working on all of those fronts.
And well said, Mr. Sharma, because at a country level, the policies and regulations are quite supportive of what you are saying. Specifically coming down to L&T, you are in construction space, and we understand that the building ecosystem contributes a lot to emission, right? And similarly, the climate has an impact on buildings, right? So it's both ways. So what is the specific thing that you do while you are designing, planning and executing projects? And how are you utilizing technology, for example, to mitigate some of these?
Very good point. I mean, actually the infrastructure business and particularly when it is getting implemented in very remote places, it's actually a hard business in terms of abatement. I mean, to reduce carbon footprint in this business is not that easy. However, I think L&T has been in the forefront of building the energy infrastructure, and we are quite committed to reducing the carbon footprint. We have gone to the press and made commitment that we'll be carbon neutral by 2040. So what we are doing is that, like you very rightly said, is that our first effort is more or less similar to what I talked about the nation level, is how do I improve efficiency? How do I reduce the consumption? I mean, like we are doing a lot of good design makes where I can reduce the water in concrete, how I can use less aggregate in concrete, get the same strength by using less, how I can use higher efficiency diesel engines and diesel machines so that I consume lesser fuel. Similarly, in every sites and every locations, wherever I can install solar power for use as an alternative fuel, we are doing that, we are installing those. And most importantly is that I think we have used the digital technology in a big way to improve the overall efficiency of the operation. We are using IoT based technology. Every equipment, every construction equipment has got an intelligent chip, and we are measuring their performance, their utilization, and how effectively they are being used. And so that helps us to bring up the overall efficiency and reduce wastages in many ways. So, and then when it comes to buildings and we have come up with some very good design, which is focusing on longevity, because like if you design instead of 25 years for 40 years, so in a way you are reduced carbon footprint because you don't have to rebuild those. So longevity has been in terms of design. For the same design, how do I lengthen the life of the assets? That is something which we have done. Green building. This building where you are sitting is a green building. It's certified as a green building in terms of air conditioning usage, water usage, conservation. All our campuses are zero recycle. I mean, everything is recycled, zero consumption. So there are many efforts. Having said that, I would say that the remoteness of our projects and the accessibility issues which we face, and we are working in the extreme the corners of the world, including in the Middle East. When you work, we are working in the middle of the desert. So it's not easy for us to implement everything what we want to in all the projects, but we are making our best efforts. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Sure. So I'll pick up two strands from what you're saying. The first is I want to hear more about the people aspect, because in many of the places you yourself have spent 3 decades in Middle East. How do you deal with these extreme weather conditions which is going to be more aggravated, as you rightly said, 1.52 degrees. Is the working hour getting changed? What are the facilities you give to people? Some of that, because you deal with so much of labor and people who are from the lower strata who we should be worried about. Yeah.
So I think it's again a very interesting point you brought up. One is, of course, because of the climate change, and secondly also as such, the availability of skilled workforce becoming a challenge. And for us, I think as an organization, we have been extremely sensitive to how we treat our people, what kind of welfare facilities we provide, because we see that not just as a good caring organization, but even otherwise from a business point of view, it is very important that people are well looked after. Then only you get good productivity, good safety, good quality. All of them are very interrelated. So we have always believed in that. So wherever possible, I mean, and to the extent possible, we provide a controlled environment, and we also have shelters for the workforce. And during summertime, even in Middle East, it's a common practice that the peak hours or silent hours during summer, like 11 o'clock or 10:30 to 4 o'clock, you don't work. I mean, then you have early morning start or late evening working. Similarly, in India also, wherever possible, we do that and all of that. I think the most important thing is that how do we reduce the intensity of labor? I think that is what we need to focus on, because this availability of skill and the hardship they have to go through, the best solution is to prevent. And that is where we have come up with some very good modular solutions in everything what we do. Precast for concretes and precast buildings, modular. I mean, even the Trans-Ocean Bridge we built, a huge amount of prefabricated steel was used. So you do it in a controlled environment and take it and install. We have 3 yards for our process plants also, where we are building large size modules, and we are trying to minimize so that the worker intensity at the harsh condition is reduced. So that's the strategy and intervention we are. I think it's becoming popular worldwide now.
And the second thing that I wanted to ask was on the market response. Now, as you are trying to go for green buildings, is it cost competitive? Because or are you seeing a more adoption? The clients are open to paying more for it. Is it, first of all, more expensive? That's the first thing. And second, is there a wave where we believe that the clients are asking for it now? The awareness part that you said, are they ready to put in a little more for a green building, for a more technology or a digitally more, responsive building?
Yeah. So I think it's 2 ways of looking at it. One is that capital cost and an operating cost. Yeah. So in our industry, very commonly used is a life cycle cost analysis. So you don't look only at the capital, but you look at the overall NPV using the 15 years or 20 years or whatever, 30 years of life cycle, and what is the operating cost. The classic example in a common language is like the electric vehicle versus IC engine vehicle, right? Today electric vehicles are more expensive, but when you look at the consumption of petrol and diesel, and over a 5 years, the payback period is very, very short. So same concept applies on green building also, that maybe it's a little bit more expensive to build it, though that is also coming down. But definitely there is a huge advantage in our operating cost, A. B is that, I mean, now at least in urban areas, people are becoming more responsible and they would like to have green building. They also want to make their contribution to reducing the carbon footprint. So there is a preference for that. If there is a premium to be paid, I think people will be willing to pay. Because these are all long-term assets. I mean, the cost impact is very small. So I think both. I mean, A is that as such, if you look at the overall life cycle cost, it is not that bad. And B is that people are also willing to pay for it. It's an affordable sector.
Sure. And over the last 2-3 years, have you looked at your products and services portfolio to address some of the same emerging climate adaptation or resilience measures that you want to work with your clients with? Is there something that you would want to share with us?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think, see, we have been, L&T has been in the forefront of building the energy infrastructure in India and Middle East for most of our customers. And traditionally started with oil and gas upstream, then we moved to midstream, downstream, and then thermal power plants, we had huge role to play. And now, of course, with the new technologies coming and clean energy options coming up, we have positioned ourselves well. So we have, in addition to our conventional capability in the oil and gas and power, we have also started now undertaking work in the green space, which is basically green hydrogen, green ammonia, blue ammonia, things like that. Also in carbon capture projects. So in that segment, we have our conventional EPC offering, which we do anyway. We have been doing, that's our core business.
Absolutely.
So we are offering that to the customers. In addition to that, we have also gone into green manufacturing. You spoke about it earlier, about it's part of my portfolio. We have been in the manufacturing, and we have a strong presence in the manufacture. Now we're going to green manufacture in the sense the value chain components in the green value chain, like electrolyzer. I mean, we have produced our first electrolyzer December last year, and our plan is to expand that and be a big supplier of the electrolyzer, which is the essential component for green hydrogen. And we will add more components, more products in that value chain. And more interestingly, we also gone into a development role. And we have formed a joint venture with IOCL and Renew Power. And together we are looking at building assets and for generating green hydrogen, blue ammonia, green ammonia for both domestic as well as export market.
So given the large scale challenge of adaptation, how are you engaging with the broader stakeholder ecosystem? For example, while in your operations you can be green, but what about your suppliers? How are they coming together? Because you might have, how many suppliers you would have?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe 2,000 plus or something like that. Yeah, a large number for sure. So it's always say good things have to start at your home first. I mean, that's what always they say. You have to lead from the front.
Sure.
So I think initially we are trying to do that. Our customers are doing it. We are also doing it. And it's a chain, you know. It's normally it's a process, and the process has begun. And like I said, we are doing a lot of things, and we are also picking up now. You can't expect all the suppliers to come on board immediately. So we have to prioritize it, and we have to rank them.
Sure.
And there are many who are voluntarily coming. There are some who we need to nudge and increase awareness and make them aware of how important it is. Slowly the entire bandwagon will come. I mean, I don't think that is a problem. It's a process. It will take time, but it's happening.
Mm-hmm. So typically the journey is that you put all those code of conduct, then you do some checks, and then you co-invest. Is there a plan to co-invest along with your suppliers on certain technologies that you believe?
So I think, some of these things you have to share the knowledge and also work together. And the vendor development and supplier development has always been part of our value system and ecosystem. So wherever we can share the knowledge and wherever we can even share the technology, will help them. Co-investment has to be on a selective basis. Of course, we don't have unlimited resources to invest with everyone. But selected areas, we will definitely co-invest if required. But I think by itself, the whole process, once it begins, it will become a necessity. I mean, it won't be a choice. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the whole environment and the community and the society will start then judging you. I mean, like today, if something is available in disposable bags which are organic, I mean, you have affinity for that, right? So people are slowly going towards that. You want to reduce the use of plastics, reduce the use of fossil. So I think over a period of time, as the awareness increases, I think everything will get naturally aligned. You have to give it time, but it's happening.
So the last question, you yourself have committed for getting 50% into renewables into your operations by 2026. You have also said 100% of your operations by 2035 and then net zero by 2040. Anything that you want the government, regulators or the ecosystem to support you in, or any challenges that you have faced? Some of the things that you want momentum to be there.
So I said, I mean, I think it's a challenging process because you're trying to strike a balance, as I said, between cost competitiveness, affordability, and also clean, being clean. So that whole process of aligning all these three aspects, which are conflicting. I mean, today the cost of doing something clean or environmental friendly is more expensive than not doing it, right? But at the same time, I have to remain competitive. The customer should be willing to pay more for it. So that whole process is evolving. where, I mean, at this point in time, it has not matured, other than government has put some very good enabling policies in terms of production-linked incentive schemes. They are also giving a lot of subsidies in terms of, not subsidies, priorities in terms of land allocation for green development, and a whole lot of things. I mean, there's also talk about having some enabling policies on the demand creation side. It has not come in place, but there's a lot of thought going in, and we can see that there is a serious commitment. So once that policies come in and momentum picks up, then I think people will be willing to pay a premium, and people may even stipulate that we want only green, and we will not be able to accept higher carbon
anything
footprint.
about financing, the last bit, because we talked about people, we talked about technology, the processes, awareness, regulations. Any reflection on financing, in the sense, are you getting financing for these green projects? How warm is the country for, or anything that you would want?
I think from everything what I gather from within the industry and the people I speak to, financing by itself is not a problem. I mean, it's particularly for green. I think there's a lot of finance. You can access a lot of finance worldwide. People are in fact allocating a lot of resources for developing green. It's having the right solution, right technology, and the right commitment. Once you have a good plan, I think you should be able to attract finance. I think that will not be a bottleneck. I don't see. And as said, thankfully, L&T has a very strong balance sheet. We did not have to look out yet. But even if you have to, then I don't think that will be a problem.
So thanks, Mr. Sharma, for your insights into the climate adaptation, what all the countries should be doing, what L&T is doing, and what the broader ecosystem is responding to. I think I learned a lot from and more about L&T, but hopefully the audience likes this.
My pleasure. I think equally I enjoyed having this conversation, and good opportunity for me to share my thoughts, and I hope you like it, your organization likes it, and the audience likes it. Yeah.
Thank you.